G'day everyone, it's Andre from Momentumwingchun. Today I'd like to talk to you about the three empty hand forms and how they relate to each other. So the three empty hand forms that we have in Wing Chun are firstly Siu Nim Tao, the second one is Chum Kiu, and the third one is Biu Gee. I've written some translations down here. They're hard to get exactly accurate because it is Chinese that we're trying to translate, but I think you get the concept. So Siu Nim Tao means tiny idea, and essentially what Siu Nim Tao teaches us more than anything is that we don't need muscle to generate power. But the other thing that Siu Nim Tao gives us, because we're not using muscle to generate power, we're also learning how to use structure. So Siu Nim Tao essentially, if I use the analogy of this ring, it just gives us the shape. It makes us function like this ring or like a ball in water would work. Chum Kiu means searching for the bridge, or as Sigong Tin called it in his book, he called it detecting hand bridge, which, by the way, if you want to read more on the concept of the three empty hand forms and how they relate to each other, highly recommend get this book. There's a good chapter on the relationship of the three empty hand forms in that book. So again, whatever I'm talking about right now, I didn't invent it myself at all. I read it in this book and I was taught by my Sifu, Mark Spence. Okay, so Siu Nim Tao teaches us how to be like this ring. Chum Kiu teaches us then how to move through space. So in the analogy of this ring, if I were to have a ring and then I throw the ring, Chum Kiu is essentially the traveling of the object through space. And at this moment, if I throw the ring the way I'd throw a frisbee, it's going to fly horizontally on a plane around its axis, which is essentially what we're doing with Chum Kiu. So for example, if I'm pivoting, I'm moving this way as I'm rotating on one plane. So everything is happening on the horizontal plane while I'm doing these moves. Biu Gee now is the moment of impact. So if I had a diagonal object, which is something that's not perfectly perpendicular, the ring is flying through space, and then on the moment of impact, the center of the mass of this ring is still going to want to keep following the same trajectory, but the ring will then start spinning in a chaotic manner further through space. So if we actually took the analogy of space, we're out in the universe, I have a solid structure, it is flying through space on a perfectly horizontal trajectory, and then once it collides with an object, the thing will have another unpredictable spin added to the movement. We'll have person's guard up in a not perfect alignment. So if now this ring comes flying towards his, when it impacts, it'll start doing something like that and then just continue on in whatever way. If I now take that into the context of motion, let's take an elbow for example. And the funny thing is, just like with the order of the powers, and when we want to generate power, when I want to use my forms, I have to use them in the same order as well. So I have to have underlying Siu Nim Tao in everything I do. Chum Kiu has to be the precedent for Biu Gee, and then only Biu Gee can happen. You can't jump straight into Biu Gee. So if you make it hard for me here, if I were to straight away want to do a Biu Gee elbow, now I'm committed to closing the shoulder joint here, so he has something he can pick on and he can stop. Whereas if I just free up the shoulder and I actually have a Chum Kiu way of holding my shoulder where I'm opening and I've got body rotation and everything doing the work, at that point it's very easy for me to let his then spin off in a Biu Gee way. So again, I'm not forcing Biu Gee to happen there, he can stop it. I first set my body up in a Chum Kiu way, and then I can let Biu Gee happen very easily and effortlessly. So I think that's really important to understand on all moves. So same as, like, let's say I've tried to punch. If I just go like this, obviously he can stop me quite easily. If I commit straight away to doing a Biu Gee type punch, again, he can catch that. But if I connect in a Chum Kiu way where I've got an opening sensation in my shoulder joint, my body is doing the work, I've not committed the arm yet, at that point it's very easy for me to again let it roll off in a Biu Gee way. Whereas if he's making it hard for me, if I'm straight away doing a Biu Gee type punch right now, I can't do it. If I free my whole body up in a Chum Kiu way, then it's very easy for me to then let Biu Gee happen. So, and if we do, for example, Chisao, that becomes really relevant. If I'm sort of committing to doing Biu Gee type attacks, it's very easy for his to stop me. But if I do Chum Kiu in a way that we would do the Chum Kiu step, for example, so I'm actually driving from my spine and I'm letting both my shoulders and chest open up a lot. At this point, I have a lot of freedom to move the person easily, or if I wanted, I can at any time as we're rolling, I can let that spin off into a strike or there into something else. But again, I can't commit and try and force these things. I need to stay open, have my Chum Kiu way of moving, my Chum Kiu state of the body, Serum Tao mind, and then as you're rolling, that will then give you those moments to do Biu Gee. But so Biu Gee is actually kind of the split second at the end. Everything, all the hard work happens. I have to be like Serum Tao first. I then move in a Chum Kiu way to then just for a split second use Biu Gee when I actually get to striking. Because searching for the bridge, Chum Kiu, by the way, so let's say we're actually out of striking distance, so that's where Chak Chong, which means breaking the guard, would come in. If I'm sort of committed to doing things, again, he can defend himself or make it hard for me very easily. So if I had my eyes closed, for example, and I'm just like that ring floating through space, I'm searching for the contact point. When I have the contact point, that's when I can let the strikes happen. But I can't be committed already coming in with the strikes. I need to be in a Chum Kiu way where everything's open, it can spin, and then on the contact, now I've got contact, then I can let Biu Gee happen. So again, it'll happen in a real fight. We would all be like split seconds, you sort of, okay, relax, try to go for contact, and then as soon as you contact, that would then straight away become some form of strike. Actually, that was a good example of what happened just then. Because I was still in Chum Kiu mode, the resulting force was actually a propelling one, you see what I mean? Whereas if I had it, not the propelling force, if it was more Biu Gee, that would become more of a strike. I'll show you one more beautiful example of comparing Chum Kiu and Biu Gee. Hold on one sec. We're going to be looking at, so we have in Biu Gee this move. So we're coming back from here. There's two ways that move can be done. So if he holds me here, completely wrong, I'm pushing into here with my hand, so that's totally not going to work. So what I'll do now is I'm going to put myself into Serum Tao state, so I'm actually focusing that way, not at here, so I've got my hips and shoulders parallel, pointing that way, and I'm generating power actually up my center line. Now if I do this in a Chum Kiu way, I'm going to be rotating my body, which is going to create an opening here, which will then result in eventually propelling force. Hold again. So that will result in a propelling force which pushes the opponent away. Whereas if I do it in a Biu Gee way, rather than opening like that, if I do a closing motion here, it will result in a much more aggressive striking force. So you have propelling, which will push away. And in this case, the propelling way is a lot harder to do because I'm sort of having to push quite a lot of mass away using my body motion and rotation. Whereas Biu Gee in this case is quite easy. But again, if I commit to doing Biu Gee straight away, it's not going to work. You see, you just stop me there, right? So I've got to have Serum Tao, Chum Kiu, and then I can do Biu Gee quite easy, where I just let it roll off in that sort of chaotic manner where there's nothing you can really hold. It kind of feels nearly like I'm cheating when I'm doing it because it's so easy, but that's what you want to be doing. Like if you were held and you want to hit the person, you don't really care whether you're going to push them away. You just want to hit them, and the Biu Gee is that sort of spinning, spiraling way of striking as we do it. So the manifesting of Chum Kiu is a rotation that will propel. Biu Gee is going to be very sort of spirally penetrating and really hitting into the target hard. Doesn't mean Biu Gee, Chum Kiu can't hurt. Like if you do a Chum Kiu type punch or a Chum Kiu type elbow, if someone happened to have their head there, like it would still hurt. But the Biu Gee elbow is so maybe give you this perspective. If I do a Chum Kiu elbow, I'm sort of opening and throwing a bong sao forward, which would propel the person away. The Biu Gee elbow would be more spirally, where the whole body twists and hits into the target. So that's really the relationship of the three forms. I'll just quickly also cover a little bit of the pivoting. So Serum Tao, we have our feet parallel, hips parallel, shoulders parallel, and everything just gets done on the center line. So Serum Tao teaches us, amongst the other things, obviously like the first thing, we don't need muscle, but it also gives us that awareness of the center line and the focus and the mind. Chum Kiu teaches us how to move the body and how to rotate on a plane. Biu Gee gives us that twist. So when I do a Biu Gee pivot, I actually twist the spine where in the end I kind of have my hips pointing this way and my chest pointing that way and everything's totally contorted. And when I'm doing Biu Gee, I also have now this axis. But when I'm doing a Biu Gee elbow, I'm not just turning horizontally like this, I've also got this axis available, whereas in Chum Kiu I would keep it all on the one plane. That's really sort of the relationship between the three empty hand forms. If you have any questions, again, feel free to contact me at any time. Or you can also read up in the book of Wing Chun written by Chun. And yeah, thank you very much. I look forward to talking to you again soon.